So yeah, this is pretty relaxed, Sergei. Thanks for coming in to have a chat. And to set the scene, sitting here with Sergei, surname?
Chernikov.
And also Martin Hartley. So Martin, I'm sure, will sort of chip in with comments and questions maybe as well, because this really was sort of a conversation in a bar that has sort of progressed, I think, and Sergei has kindly sort of agreed to come and have a chat. Sitting in Longyearbyen, latitude, longitude?
78 degrees?
78
degrees. About -7 outside, some beautiful mountains and snow. We are in the hotel room. That's the only place we could find, and we're doing this on an iPhone because we forgot the recording equipment. But we'll do our best. And as I say, it's really just a conversation that we wanted to have with Sergei, because he seems like a pretty intelligent guy that has found himself in maybe a sort of slightly different situation than he thought in regards to sort of being Russian up in Svalbard, but being pretty tuned into what's going on in the world, etc. So we wanted to have a chat about that, but also around tourism here and what it's like and in terms of working in this environment, because Svalbard itself is really sort of a pretty unique environment, isn't it?
It is.
So maybe, Sergei, just tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, what you're doing up here, etc. That would be a great place to start.
So I'm originally from Moscow, Russia, but I came to Svalbard in December 2015. First working in the Russian settlement, and I worked in tourism industry, starting to work as a field guide, working on snow scooter trips, hikings, then became the operations manager of the tourism department, so being the chief guide and dealing with logistics, procurement, and plenty of other things. And then last May, I, for political reasons, moved to Longyearbyen, and now stay and work in Longyearbyen with different jobs.
So you come from Russia. Why Svalbard? It's not the most obvious place to come, for most people in the world. How come you ended up here?
From the very childhood, I was very keen on nature, on being outside, not being in the big city. And then summer 2015, I've spent the whole summer season on Franz Josef Land, working in science department with polar bears for one of the national parks. And I heard about Svalbard from one of my Norwegian colleagues. And yeah, that was just logical for me. The thing is that I could not have stayed on Franz Josef Land for the whole year. Yeah. It was just the summer season when you could be in the area. And then I found out that Svalbard is open year-round, so it's possible to be and working in here, and that's why I came.
And so what were you doing with polar bears in Franz Josef Land?
That was about monitoring their behavior, especially when they kind of communicate, meet people, and to find patterns on what works the most with polar bears, how to prevent conflicts, and how to arrange things more smoothly for both sides.
Okay. So that's obviously quite relevant to Svalbard now as well, especially with new regulations that are being talked about in regards to travel and tourism and stuff. So I'm sure we can come on to that. So you came from Franz Josef Land, and then you went into Barentsburg, was it?
First, it was Barentsburg, December 2015.
So explain a bit about Barentsburg in terms of, I don't really know a huge amount about it, but it's come into the media a bit more recently, obviously, with what's going on in the world in terms of Ukraine and Russia, etc. What's Barentsburg? What's there? Tell us a bit about it.
So yeah, now we are basically in Longyearbyen, which is the Norwegian and administrative capital of Svalbard, while there is the second settlement on the archipelago, and that's Barentsburg, and that belongs to the Russian governmental company. It first was the Soviet governmental company, which was kind of dealing with all the things in the settlements. They had more than just one settlement. That was two, actually, Barentsburg and Pyramiden. So Barentsburg was started in 1931. That's the year when the first miners arrived from Soviet Union. And actually they arrived not from Russia, but from Ukraine. The thing is that in Russia they were most experienced miners from the Soviet Union, not that much from Russia. So, and back to the days, they needed the result, the coal itself, as fast as possible. So they had no time to kind of train stuff and people. So yeah, that's how it all started. From 1931 and up to nowadays, let's say, there was a little period when the settlement was not active, same to Longyearbyen. That was the World War II, when all the basically it's everyone from Svalbard who was evacuated. But then 1946 the settlement started being restored, same to Longyearbyen as well.
So how big is Barentsburg?
Back to the golden era of Barentsburg at end of 70s, it was actually around 1,500
Really?
of locals in the area. While Longyearbyen was way smaller, it actually changed a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
At some point, there were like really more representatives of the Soviet Union than Norwegians in the area. Nowadays, it's just around 350 before the war started this year, and now I don't know actually, but I know that quite a lot of people left. So I'd say 250 kind of
Really?
maybe.
So it's quite small.
Yeah.
And is it still an active mining town?
It's still an active mining town, and it's still, I'd say, around 70-80% of Ukrainians who live in the settlement, and only the rest is Russians.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And so maybe explain a bit about Svalbard, taking a step back. How's it structured in regards to the communities socially? What's the makeup of the population here? Obviously it's not 100% Norwegians. There's quite a mix of people here, and then it's a pretty unique environment to live in anyway, isn't it? And you've now been here for about 8 years. Maybe talk us through that, and then a bit about with recent things going on between Russia and Ukraine, obviously with the war. Has that impacted the community? What's happening?
So the place is really unique in many ways. There were originally no indigenous cultures in here, but still quite a lot of representatives from very different nationalities and countries started coming in the area quite long ago. It all started with Barents end of 16th century. That's most historians say, because it's not like very 100% proven who was still the first one, but like most common version is that it was Barents. So then it was whalers from both Netherlands and England, Pomors from northern Russia, hunters, trappers. They were hunting not whales, but mostly walruses, seals, reindeers, and all the rest. Then it was Norwegian trappers, Swedish trappers. Then it was, I'd say, very same thing as with the Golden Rush, just with the coal rush in here. And that was also represented by many countries in the very beginning of 20th century. So during the whole period of its kind of creation, Svalbard was a really huge mixture. And especially nowadays, it's around 60 nationalities living in the area.
60?
Around 60. And I think that's really fantastic, because you won't find a place on the earth like this. I mean, in some countries, of course, there are more nationalities, but due to the area, which is quite vast, you won't meet so many people of different cultures at the same time. While in here, it's really beautiful. It's like a pot. All cultures just mix, and you get to know so many different traditional things, like not folklore as it is, but traditions from different people and culture, and that's really good. It's
a sort of northern outpost, isn't it? Is that right?
It is.
It's
in a way.
And is it a close community then, in terms of?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, people, if something good is happening, like you see sun for the first time after the whole night. As the whole community which is meeting the sun, and that's a very long tradition. They have special stairs, kind of. It's just 2 steps. But you take it to the second step, and you see the sun for the first time in the year. And that stairs stand there for like 50 years or so, even more, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
And a lovely community tradition,
Yeah, and that's a big festival which they have, and
you've got a big smile on your face when you're talking about this, and so
I just really find it very beautiful.
You have an incredible amount of knowledge about Svalbard and the communities, and the wildlife and the politics and everything. It's obviously more than just somewhere you live. You are Russian, but you're here, and this seems to be sort of your home, really.
It is. It is. The thing is that when I left Russia 2015, actually it was a huge crisis in me, because I was just not fitting into the society, and I did not appreciate the values which were kind of spread. And I just did not feel myself right in the place.
In Russia?
In Russia, and in here it works so fantastically good, because people are really kind and they mean it. And actually, funny thing is, back to Barentsburg, to the Russian settlement. When we worked in there, we had so many tourists from all over the world, and we had them every week, as we had week tours. So some of Russians arriving back to Barentsburg, they were like, "Guys, you are real Russians." Like open-hearted, open-minded, welcoming, and
And I think that's the thing, isn't it? At the moment, I think it's obviously very hard knowing what's going on between Russia and Ukraine, but we talked about this the other day. People can sort of generalize a lot, can't they? Oh, they're Russian, so, you know, and that has happened very quickly, and it's very unfair as well, isn't it? I think
the biggest part of crisis I just mentioned is that I actually don't feel myself Russian.
Right.
Because I don't feel myself part of the country, and I don't want to. I don't want to be back to the country, and I don't want to share that values or stuff like that. And actually, like just a couple of weeks ago, I've been on a trip with artists that was on the toll ship.
Yeah.
And it was artist residency. And it was so funny for me because we had artists from all over the world. It was around 30 people. Most of them, like, it was nearly 50-50, 50% from the States and 50% from both Europe and UK. And so the first question people asked each other was, where you come from?
Yep.
And I was like, why does it matter so much? Because you all know that you are either artists, either scientists, so you could ask about your projects or background or whatever, you know, but you still ask about the country. And I thought a lot about that. And I talked, and at the same time, we talked with all of the people, and we were all on the same page. We were so, like, going in one direction. So I started thinking a lot on the topic, and I decided that at some point, you know, it was not kind of polite to ask people about their age. So I think at some point it could start being not polite to ask about nationality, but instead there needs to be something instead, and that could be valuenality. I created a word, and I feel like it's really nice because I mean, instead of knowing from where you come from, because it gives you just a bunch of stereotypes and patterns and nothing else. You have this really kind of thing which is core for you.
Based around your values.
Around your values, exactly.
I like it. Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a new way to go. And so, so how, going back to that community aspect, in regards to, we met you at the bar at Mary's Polarigan, which was a great place to go. Had a few drinks there. You introduced yourself, and we had dinner there. What were you doing that night in terms of, there was this massive dinner that you had put on, and you were sort of fundamental in organising that?
So the thing is that Marianne's goes on with National Cousins every summer. So they host, I'd say every weekend, or at least 2 weekends a month, they host those kind of National Cousin evenings when they serve traditional food from one chosen national cousin. And they try looking for chiefs from that very nationality. They actually first find a chief and they ask if you'd like to maybe do something like that. So the owner of the place is my friend, and I talked with him, I think, 3 weeks ago. If we maybe could arrange an evening. He said just go for it. And we, of course, wanted to do a Ukrainian evening because we have a Ukrainian chief. And actually quite a lot
chef,
and actually, there is kind of, I would not say community, but there are some people, both Ukrainians and Russians from Barentsburg, who moved from the settlements for political reasons.
Just recently?
It all started a year ago, but since then it was different waves. And so we have quite a lot of friends, and I talked with most of them, and of course, all of them were eager to help. And that's how we started the Ukrainian dinner. And the whole idea was to get money and to send them to volunteers who help with food, supplies, medicine, relocation, and all that stuff.
So and actually, it's so a Russian hosting a dinner for Ukraine in Svalbard.
It was not like that.
No?
It was a mixture of Ukrainians and Russians who helped to arrange everything.
Quite a powerful message, isn't it? You know, in terms of that's in one of the most northernmost outposts. You know, we just walked into that, didn't we, Martin? And we were sort of fortunate to sort of, you know, be there and you introduced the meal and what it was. And, you know, I think we worked out, you know, how much you had 2 sittings. You had about 78 people. 76 people sort of throughout the evening. And we even heard someone saying it's the most local Longyearbyens they've ever seen in one place ever. I mean, that is an achievement in itself. And going back to your valuenality, which you wanted to do instead of nationality, you know, that's a pretty strong sort of pointer on that, isn't it? In terms of you've done that for those reasons, getting all of those people together in this one community. It doesn't matter, and I know you don't see yourself necessarily as traditionally Russian, but that's where you're born and where you're from, in terms of, and being key in an evening like that is amazing.
But that was the already second event in a row, which was for donations to Ukraine, and the third event in a row for support of Ukraine as it is. Getting back to the locals, I find them really beautiful. The beautiful people. That's how I started. And they are. And that's back to the society in here as it is. Because people really struggle, and they're very in. The empathy is really big, still big in here. And I think that's one of the hugest differences for me, back to the comparing mainland and Svalbard.
Yeah.
So in here, I've heard it not only from myself, but from those people who stay here for some time, that they feel themselves Svalbardians.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that what you consider yourself now?
Yeah, definitely.
So then, something we can't really ignore now, COVID.
Yeah.
So, in terms of, this is actually the second trip we've managed to run since COVID has lifted, with our ships out here. Which is only 12 clients per ship, so it's very small scale and stuff. And I'd like to chat to you a bit about travel and tourism up here as well. But how was COVID, up here in a very remote community? Again, what happened? What was it like?
It was very different to what was happening on the mainland, because of course it was a bit of rules that were implemented. If I'm not mistaken, bars and restaurants were also closed, but not for the whole period. So at some point, it was allowed for locals to go visit bars and restaurants
in Svalbard.
I'm talking about Svalbard, both Barentsburg and Longyearbyen, because the rules were the same for both of the settlements. And then, when it all just started, all of the tourists were taken back to mainland with one of the aircrafts. It was a special aircraft for all of them.
That was at the beginning of COVID.
Yeah, it was different periods when COVID kind of started in countries.
But when you had to shut down.
Here, in Norway, it was progressing quite fast, I'd say. I think it was just within a week when they started having first kind of 100 of cases, and then suddenly it was around 1,000 something, and then they said, no, we kind of shut down. But also what I've heard from locals, those kind of were lucky enough to survive all the struggles and stay on Svalbard, they were quite happy that they finally have time to travel around, because usually April, beginning of May is the high season, and it's quite a lot of tourists in here.
Yeah.
And all locals work a lot, especially, those who work in tourism. And now they had time to travel on their own, and they were quite happy with that.
They could discover stuff on their own doorstep.
At the same time, I needed to mention that quite a lot of people were, they just needed to leave, because they had no other options of staying in here, because they were out of work, out of tourism. I'm once again talking mostly of those who worked in tourism. And they did not receive any support from the Norwegian government. I'm talking about non-Norwegians, because Norwegians received it. And so they needed to leave. That was, of course, an issue.
Yeah.
But then when it all started being normal, not that long ago, actually, people started coming back.
And you stayed here throughout COVID, throughout lockdown?
During the whole period, yeah.
Was it quite surreal in regards to, it's a small community anyway, and then shrunk down even more, as you said, some people had to leave, there was no tourists coming in. It must have been pretty amazing as well, in terms of you considered yourself a Svalbardian. It must have been quite a unique, privileged opportunity to be here.
It was still quite a lot of work to do. So
right.
Actually, I saw no difference.
Really?
Yeah. Of course, it was a difference, but we still were working regularly. It was not huge gaps on schedules or just being on the sofa watching Netflix. Yeah.
So you didn't get much time off?
No, it was just the same regarding work. So
and
just not with tourists, but with other stuff.
So what's the perception of tourism here? It's a tricky conversation, tourism anywhere in the world, isn't it? In terms of, is it good, is it bad? It's obviously, mining is a key part of Svalbard and Longyearbyen. There's still
I would not say so.
Not so much. Well, there's still the one mine here that is working and functioning.
But they are talking a lot about shutting it down.
Closing it down.
Yeah.
So what are the main industries here then? And travel and tourism is one of those. How's that perceived?
Definitely tourism is huge for Svalbard because it brings a lot of income. They also try to make it as stable and eco as positive. I'd say there are some nice steps forward to that, and also some of them are of course not that nice. It's all very discussable, and the nice thing is that they try to make tourism, as I've already mentioned, stable, to make it kind of whole year round, that tourists come visit the place. And that's how they started musical festivals in here in autumn, late autumn, when it's kind of that season and not that much to do. You don't have ships, you still already you don't have snow scooters yet.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a gap, but yeah, those musical festivals were arranged, and people also come and fulfill the hotels, the restaurants. So that's kind of going. But definitely it's a lot of people who are involved in the tourism industry, because it's not only, let's say, managers and guides, but also, of course, bartenders, chefs, and...
Well, you work for a logistics company as well, etc.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of people. Also, a big part of Svalbard is science, I'd say. So there is the university, maybe you've seen unis.
Yeah.
And they also have a whole department in logistics, and that's a lot of scientists coming from all over the world as well. So,
do you want to talk a bit more about sort of perception of Russians here and what's going on back home? I don't want to say home for you.
I know.
But in regards to, what's your perception of that? Is it just something that you don't really want to be involved in? I think the thing we chatted about at breakfast as well, is the difference in perception that you have being here, being Russian, being in this community, and then you have family back home which don't understand what has been going on, etc. as well. And I don't know whether I want to talk about that or not. I find it quite hard.
It is hard. It's a hard conversation to have, because there's two separate versions of the truth going on in the world, and we should talk about it because it is happening now. And what Russians are being told in Russia is not what we are being told, and Russians are being told outside of the conflict zone, outside of Russia, sorry. So it is important to talk about it, because it is happening, and it's not something we should ignore. So I'm interested.
But you've spoken to...
I see no reasons why we're not talking about that, actually.
You think it should be something that's spoken... So you've spoken to family back home, etc. And what's their perception? What is...
Yeah, I've spoken to some people. I would not say that I have a lot of friends in Russia. Most of them... funny thing, but I have more Ukrainian friends than Russian ones.
So how old are you now, Sergei?
30.
30. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've spoken to several people, and I actually am a bit desperate about this, because it's just a huge abyss between us.
Yeah.
And what actually irritates me even more is not those people who just blindly follows propaganda. Yes, I mean, it's really brainwashing, and that's kind of, okay, you're brainwashed, like, fine. But I don't get those people who say, I'm just not part of this. And you are definitely part of this if you at least pay taxes.
Yeah.
I mean, I know quite a lot of people who... it was just the same as a century ago, when the Soviet Union started kind of appearing on the mainland, and that was revolution and stuff. So most of intelligence, artists, scientists, and those people who kind of were opposite to what is happening, they just left Russia.
Yeah.
And moved away. And that was just the same to what happened this year, this February. Quite a lot of people. I mean, let's say, starting from 2000 to 2020, 20 years, it's 5 million of Russians who left the country.
Really?
Yes. And that's quite a lot. So it's not just like this year.
Yeah.
That's quite a lot of people who actually leave the country because they don't feel like for the... And yeah, I read about the answers, why so. And it was mostly about security or future of their children.
Yeah.
Or just community. So it's not like what's just happening.
Yeah. It's something that's been going on for a period of time.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And the problem is that what I feel like it's not only about the government, it's also about community, it's also about people.
Yeah. So as long as they don't all come to your Svalbard, you don't mind?
Sorry?
As long as those 5 million don't come to Svalbard, you're happy.
I feel like people should live where they'd like to live, where they feel good and needed
Yeah.
Because we are only happy when we fit
Yeah.
by ourselves.
And has the perception of Russians within the community in Svalbard changed since the war has started, or is it just not really relevant here because it is a different community?
What do you mean by perception in here?
I think the perception with the different nationalities here, in terms of the perception worldwide, has sort of changed towards Russia, hasn't it? You know, in terms of, I was even in London the other day, and I think I was standing in front of some Russian people, and some said, you know, you heard some say, "Oh, they're Russian." You know, in terms of, yeah, but you can't tar everyone with the same brush. You know what I mean? I know that what's going on is horrific, etc. But you know, there has to be sort of. You've got to be careful what you judge and how you judge, don't you? In terms of, and so has the perception in Svalbard changed of
Can I ask a question? Sorry.
Sure.
What's the relationship now between Longyearbyen and Barentsburg? Is it?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
So I'd say in here it's not like same as on mainland again.
Yeah.
Back to your question, Barentsburg, Longyearbyen relationships. The council visits Svalbard. They had a meeting with all the tour operators, and they discussed either Barentsburg should be kind of ignored, and if the companies should not spend their money and bring their tourists in there, either not. So the decision was, let's say, not radical, because it was not said that you are not coming to Barentsburg anymore. It was just a recommendation that we recommend you not to go in there. Once again, I remind you why, because it's not just a private company, it's a governmental company.
Yeah.
So most of money you spend in the area go back to the mainland. So this kind of taxes and stuff, and then it all goes to the war. So, and after that, one of the locals in Longyearbyen said that it's actually a good decision, and he thinks that it should be more radical, that the company in Barentsburg should be even just banned, not just a suggestion not to go in there. But while this, if there are any Russian, Ukrainian, open-minded people who do not support war in Ukraine and who support Ukraine, they're of course very welcome in Longyearbyen, and they will be granted any help and stuff like that. So I think that answer is kind of explaining.
So it depends which way you fall on it, but
Definitely.
it's quite an open-minded approach.
I think in here what matters is that it's still about quality, not quantity. Due to the community is not that big, it still matters what a person thinks. It's not that much about kind of, you know.
I think that's Well, I think that's a pretty good way to end, don't you? In terms of it's about what a person thinks. I think, you know, ignorantly I probably started this, you know, thinking that you're a Russian in Svalbard. Now I think you're obviously sort of part of the Svalbard community and a Svalbardian that is driven by values rather
And that's
than,
a huge pleasure.
And driven by values rather than anything else. But it's an amazing sort of opportunity to sit and meet with you, and I'm glad we sort of met you the other day in the bar, and that your dinner for Ukraine was such a success as well, and wish you all the best.
We raised quite a lot of money.
How much did you raise in the end?
Yes.
How much?
In total, we're still in process of calculating. I mean, guys, in the restaurant, but I feel like it's at least €6,000, maybe even more.
Brilliant. But that's amazing
really
for doing that up here in a really remote community. It was a fantastic evening, and it was great to be part of it, wasn't it, Martin?
It was amazing. It's interesting that when you take people out of their countries and put them on an island, they become a community straight away, and they forget about their nationality.
Exactly. Is in here while you are out on a snow scooter. It doesn't matter who are you and where are you from.
Yeah, as long as you stay in that line, don't go out of the line.
If you're on the track and you have trouble, people always offer help. And that's just the way of being and living in here.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Sergei.
Pleasure.
Brilliant.
Huge pleasure.
Cheers, buddy. Thanks.
Cheers.
Great.
Thanks, Sergei.
Cheers.